All right, so for writing this week, or for today, we will be working on writing and putting up events in the correct order. So our objective is I can put events in order when I write. So we've been actually practicing sequencing and putting things in order for reading, making sure that when we retell our stories that we are writing or retelling in the correct order because it matters, right? So today we're going to focus on putting events in order when you write. Okay, so again, we're working on sequencing. Every story has a beginning, middle, and end. So things happen in the beginning, then they happen in the middle, and then at the end. So let's imagine this marker. And you're going to go, you have an assignment and you need to use the marker for something. You need to write it down. Well, when you want to tell somebody how to write with this red marker, you have to say it in a specific order. You need to put the events in order so it makes sense. You're not going to say, here's a marker, start writing. There's steps in between taking the marker and using it that occur that need to be said or that need to be written down that are important. Because when we get to having some details in our writing later, specific events need to be in the correct order so everything makes sense and so that your readers um, can make sense of everything that you're trying to tell them. All right. So here we go. B is for the beginning. Okay. So the first step is to pick up the marker. Right. That's the beginning. Then after that, you're going to take the cap off the marker, and then at the end, you're going to write with the marker. There's maybe if you want to talk about it in more detail, you can have more detail somewhere in the middle. Um, but for now, just a simple pick up the marker, take the cap off the marker, and write the marker are clear to understand beginning, middle, and end. It's also important to know that you have to use transition words. So to go back to this slide, when you're writing, you're not going to say, pick up the marker, take the cap off the marker, write the marker. You need to use transition words to make your writing fluid, to make it seem interesting. So here are some transition words, and this isn't really uh, all of the transition words that exist in the world. These are the basic ones that you can use to add to your writing so it all sounds good. Okay, so at the beginning of your writing, you can use words like first, initially, oh, and this is supposed to say to begin, in the beginning, before, or as soon as. In the middle, you may only use one of these words. So you can say next, or then, later, after that, meanwhile, or also. A lot of the times, if there are multiple steps, you're going to use several of these words in combination, or you're going to use a couple of nexts and then some thens, and then so on and so forth. And then in the end, there's always one conclusion. Then you can use any one of these transition words or phrases. So you can say finally or afterward, eventually, in conclusion, last, or all in all. Okay, so if we take the example that we had with our red marker and we use our transition words, it sounds so much better. First, pick up the marker. Next, take the cap off of the marker. Last, write with the marker. See, it sounds so much better than just picking up the marker, taking the cap off the marker, and write with the marker. All right. So today's activity, we are going to you're going to be given several different scenarios where you need to write down the steps for how to complete that task. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do for you, I'm going to give you an example. I'm not going to do for you actually. I'm going to give you the example and I want you to write your own. So please do not copy mine. You can refer back to my example if you need help and ideas. But this is my PB&J sandwich, and this is how I would make my sandwich if I was in the kitchen and I was hungry. So today for our writing activity, we have been working on sequencing, right? Writing events in order because it's important for the story. Just like it's important to make sure that you tell somebody instructions in order, right? So, like, think about when you're making a sandwich. You don't eat the sandwich before you make it, right? You have to take the bread out, you got to spread your peanut butter and jelly or whatever you want to put inside, then assemble it, and then you may eat it. So, it's always important to put things in order, right? So, let's go to our activity, flip our page to Tuesday. Here's Tuesday, April 28th, and then we're going to keep flipping until we get to this page right here with all of our pictures on the left. says, I can put events in order when I write. Okay, so the directions tell us to write to explain how to do each thing. Be sure to put your events in the correct order. That's important, correct order. What I want you to do is you're going to look at what the activity is, get your writing done, and then recheck what you wrote to make sure that it makes sense, okay? All right, so the first activity, like I said, was how to make a sandwich. Now, you can pick any sandwich, whatever sandwich you might like. I like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, so I'm going to write my directions based on a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So remember in our lesson that we use transition words, okay? There are specific transition words for the beginning part of the story, the middle of the story, and then the end of the story. Okay. So first, you take out 2 slices of bread. There's my transition word. First, you take out 2 slices of bread. I wrote it in green so that you can see that that's the beginning of our story or our instruction. You can do the same thing. That's what I recommend. If you don't and you write it in pencil, that's fine too. Maybe you can highlight it in green. If you don't have any colors at all, then don't worry about it. Okay, so again, that was my beginning sentence. Then you smear peanut butter on 1 slice of the bread. Next, you rub jelly on the other side, or on the other slice. After that, you put the 2 slices together. Finally, you can eat. Okay, so that's what I wrote. The instructions that I wrote for the activity. Now, what I want to do is go back and I want to double check my work. I want to double check that it makes sense. Okay, when I'm making it, if I'm in the kitchen right now and I'm going to make a sandwich, I think that the first thing that I would do is take out the slices of bread. Okay, then, yeah, I think that I would smear peanut butter on 1 slice. Next, I would rub the jelly on the other slice, and then after, I would put the slices together. Good. And then the last step is, yep, I can definitely eat is my last step. Perfect. So I wrote my instructions down, and then I double checked my work. Then I can move on to the next activity. All right, guys, get going.